So, gentlemen, Players Summit, why? What are you trying to achieve?
Creating a nice, opportunity and an environment where we can kind of bridge the gap between sports and tech and all the resources we have here playing, right in Silicon Valley's backyard. So, Andre and I have, he has a little bit more experience in the space, but I'm, here and now. So to be able to bring these athletes and influencers and these VCs and tech CEOs into one space to create that networking opportunity and see how many ideas start to flow from that should be awesome.
Well, a few years back when you were a free agent and thinking about coming to Golden State, looking at other teams, I've talked to people, the management of other teams who've told me that the Bay Area was interesting to you because you were interested in thinking about your post-playing career and investing.
Well, I think as an athlete, you try to find markets where obviously the athletic side is appealing and you see a lot of promise there. And I saw a promising young group of basketball players who I feel like I could help and enhance, try to win a championship. And then you see the other side where Silicon Valley's been there for, ups and downs of tech, and it was on the up and up. So, there was a perfect marriage of those two things with being on the court and off the court for me to enter into.
And so who's invited to this event?
Mostly, we got about 25 well-known figures, a lot of basketball players and some people from some other spaces in the world. So it's a good group of people that hopefully can make a difference with the information that's going to be spread.
And we have invited a lot of women's athletes,
yes.
and that's been one of the key things that we try to go after is women in tech. They have a huge influence, not just on other women, but on everyone in the world. So I think we have Allison Felix who's coming, and we've invited a lot of female athletes. When we continue to grow this thing, we want to have just as many women as men.
So inclusiveness is a notion about, because obviously you want to invest in things so you can make a lot of money. That's the purpose of investing, right? To take a little money and make more, and take a lot of money and make a lot more. But also there are other things that come along with that. It sounds like inclusiveness is something you're thinking about.
It's big.
Definitely. I think when you have a lot of influence, when we talk about influence, it is the top athletes in the world. And you're looking at one of the guy next to me who, his influence just, a lot of people say it just came out of nowhere. But I feel like his influence started when he was a kid and he was kind of groomed for this. You talk about Justin Thomas, we're big golfers, and how he was groomed for where he's at. I feel like Steph was groomed to be a great basketball player and a great influencer as far as what his abilities on the court and what he represents for his brand off the court. And all of these brands want a part of that, and we kind of look at it as the new endorsement. It's just not going to be that simple transaction where you put my name on something and I get a check to do it. It's a partnership, and then there's equity involved, and we want to take it a step further. So there's a huge education piece to this as well. We want to tell our fellow athletes.
Well, I've heard some stories that this is, it's not talking about girls or video games and cars in the locker room. That this is the kind of stuff that's talked about in the locker room these days, between you guys and on this team. Is that the case?
It is. I mean, you look at our home games, you look around the front row, and you see all the
it's hilarious.
big names.
We did this once. We went around, looked at the front row, and sort of picked out the people. This is a VC. That's the CEO of this company. That guy used to be the CEO of that company. That's another VC. There's a venture. There's a hedge fund guy. Yeah. That's what it's like down in the Oracle Arena.
That's obviously a great place to network. When you see those guys come watch us play, we get to tap into their world a little bit. That's part of the conversation. Who's who that showed up tonight, and if anybody has connections or history or anything, with those kind of guys. And Andre's done a great job of putting on an event just for the players of the Warriors last year to create another kind of environment in that space. And yes, that's a huge benefit of playing here. Quick drive from Silicon Valley, you can come watch us play, but we still get to partake in that networking opportunity and learn from those guys.
Well, as you go, I'm thinking, I'm in my head, I'm sort of going around thinking where Joe Lacob, Kleiner Perkins investor, one of the owners of the Warriors. I'm thinking of other hedge fund guys who are owners of the Warriors. I'm thinking further down on the other side, you've got some more venture capitalists down there. You've got on the other side of the hoop, you've got yet another John Burbank, who's another investor. But when I go around the court and I think about who's involved with you guys, I think about Ben Horowitz sitting close to your bench and the role of Andreessen Horowitz and maybe anyone in particular there that's helped you guys out in investing.
Well, Andreessen Horowitz was a huge help for me. It was kind of, they opened the doors for me. You know, I was knocking on a few doors and you didn't get any answers, but you know, I credit them for actually opening the door, opening their portfolio, giving me the opportunity. I really got to thank Jeff Jordan over there, who opened a portfolio and gave me an opportunity to sit down.
Formerly of eBay, formerly OpenTable CEO,
Yes.
and now investing partner at Andreessen Horowitz.
Yes, and he was gave me that opportunity, and I met with a few companies and took some pitches, and that was, you know, kind of my introduction to the whole thing, and it was new to me, but you know, those are the type of things you never forget. You know, it's kind of like working out for a team. You know, opening draft night, like this is your introduction, and you know, thank him a lot for the opportunity he gave me.
Yeah, when I was at the All-Star this year and I ran into Kevin Durant, he was with Ben Horowitz, not other players, but in fact investors. It was interesting. I want to ask you about some of the investments that you're in, because I think it's interesting. You're invested in Pinterest. How did that happen? What did you see in that you thought was valuable?
It was something I used and something my wife used, and for me it was an opportunity that was a couple years back, a way to just kind of get some skin in the game. It's not something I'm involved with day to day, but just to see it to grow the company and have you know, that feedback of, you know, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, seeing how the company's doing and keeping track on that. So that kind of was actually, besides my company I started with my business partner at Slice, that was one of my other early investments that you know, I can kind of follow and grow with it. So it's been fun learning from that, and hopefully I can continue to grow my expertise in the investing game.
And you're all over the place in some of your investments. I mean, last time I talked to you, we talked about a skincare product shaving company that you're invested in. You're invested in a company called TrueMid, which sounds like it's competing with Bloomberg in some ways. You know about this? It's like a bond trading
Yes, a bond trading platform, and you can do it mobily across your phone. And when you think about tech, you think about Silicon Valley, you think about disruption, you think about efficiency, and that's what TrueMid is. And bond trading hasn't changed since the beginning of time. You know, you sign a piece of paper and then you hand it to someone else, and then you think about, you know, the Eddie Murphy movie Trading Places, and the beginning scenes where the papers flying everywhere.
Which was so true then, yeah.
Right.
It's more entertaining when Eddie Murphy does it, but everything he does is more entertaining.
Right, so that was something that was approached to me of how to disrupt that market, and the vision was great by Ronnie Mateo, who actually started it. So I've had a really good conversations with him about that, and that's how I got into that. And this whole thing for me pretty much started with an E-Trade account, and I started investing in a lot of tech companies in that, and that's what drove my business partner, Rudy Klein Thomas, and myself into this space. So it was a perfect marriage for us to be, you know, aligned with a company like TrueMid.
Well, I guess I should back up too. When you think about the history of athletes and investing, I mean, the bad stories are the ones that make the news, but there are some bad stories. I mean, you know, your father was in the NBA. You know, I think about the athletes who've had fathers. You know, Ken Griffey Jr. had a father who was a great baseball player. Barry Bonds had a father who was a great baseball player. You know, your father was a fantastic basketball player. But they've also sort of probably, I would imagine, raised their kids with lessons of, remember that guy I used to play with, he blew everything. Remember that, you know. We've come a long way from Charles Oakley and his car wash investment, which is a great investment, but that was sort of the notion of what NBA players did with their money, and I think it's a lot more sophisticated now.
I would think so. I mean, we've been blessed to play this game and make, you know, a significant amount of money, and with the responsibility of, you know, what do you do with that? Like you talked about earlier, you want to grow that money in a smart, responsible way. Things have changed. The tech space, like Dre said, is booming, and to find open doors and access to that world is huge. But not only that, finding, you know, advisors and people that are close to you that you can trust to give you that right, you know, guidance and wisdom, and not just blindly throwing money at a company or at an idea and hoping it takes off just because you have that prestige. It has to be smarter than that.
Is what the NBA does with rookies sufficient, do you think, to let them know how they should invest as their careers move on, if their careers move on?
I think both the NBA and the NBPA are trying to. We look at it like this. You know, Jay-Z has a verse where he says, "A loss isn't a loss; it's a lesson." And you look at the history of, you know, those financial failures that some players had. You know, some players had good intentions and were trying to do the right thing. They just didn't have the proper financial education to go about it. And I feel like the NBA is trying to prepare the players more and more. The thing with sports is that we're getting the younger generations who are getting groomed to be these super athletes, and that's where the problem lies. And you're having handlers who are handling these kids, and it's all about the dollar. So before they they get to the NBA, the problem already exists. So we're going to continue to work on that. I'm sure the Players Association and the NBA to better prepare the players.
Well, and there's this notion too that you guys can create a brand now that's independent of either the union or the league or the TV contract. I mean, you've got, I think I looked up 1.7 million Instagram followers, and you posted about 6 pictures. Maybe 10, I don't know. You've got, 17 million Twitter followers roundabout. And that's a brand in and of its own.
It is, and it's a huge opportunity. If you, like Drake said, invest in your own self and your own knowledge and your own expertise in these fields, and learn how to leverage that platform in the right way, whether that can bring value add to certain companies, or like Dre said, when you get an equity deal, try to work that in so that you can bring something to the table. But yeah, that's a huge part of what we do. There's a lot of faces or people that turn on the TV and watch us play, but there's more to us than just wearing the jersey.
Well, I've got to feel also like you were in China during this off season, and when you see that, you've got to see that as an opportunity that's so much bigger than just being a U.S. basketball player.
It is. I mean, when it comes to being a face for Under Armour, and when you talk about content, digital content, and things that we could do in China that can really be able to tell powerful stories and grow not only my brand, who I am, but basketball in general for the amount of people that are there. There's definitely a huge opportunity, and that's something that we're really taking seriously.
Was it a surprise?
I wouldn't say that. I mean, I've been following guys who've been going over there for years.
Kobe
started with Kobe, and you think
or
about
Yao Ming even, obviously.
Yeah, Kobe, Yao Ming, and even Jeremy Lin, who's doing amazing things. Like, there's so many guys that are in China. There's so many fans that watch us play and want to get a taste of of what we have to offer, and that's something that we can definitely look at.
Gentlemen, thank you. Good luck this week.
Thank you very much.